So in the last video, we saw that we can convert the circular convolution, the linear convolution, into a circular convolution using a cyclic prefix. So we said that if x tilde of n is our signal in which we have added a cyclic prefix, that is the last mu samples of the signal x of n are put as a prefix into the signal x of n, and we call it x of n. And if this x tilde of n is transmitted into the channel x of n, so you would get a convolution of x tilde of n with h of n, and that would be your y of n. And we said that because of this cyclic prefix, this x tilde of n convolved with h of n is nothing but a circular convolution of x of n with h of n, and that is given by this expression. In other words, if you compute now the discrete Fourier transform of y of n, that would be equals to x of k times h of k. Or if we compute, so that we called to be so that we call to be y of k. That would be equals to y of k. Now, if you want to get your signal x of n back, that means your x of k would be nothing but y of k divided by h of k. And now if you want to get your signal x of n back at the receiving end, for example, so that this x of n would be nothing but inverse discrete Fourier transform of this quantity y of k divided by h of k. So that would give you your signal back. Remember, because this is a discrete Fourier transform and inverse discrete Fourier transform, you only require capital N samples out of the n plus mu samples you have transmitted. You have transmitted using x tilde of n. So remember, so at the receiving end, you would have y0, y1, all that with yn minus 1, and of course you would have this cyclic prefix also that you would receive, so y minus 1, y minus 2, all the way to y of minus mu. So this cyclic prefix, you don't need to recover your signal back, because your x of n is simply idft of y of k over h of k. So hence this is the only thing that you require to recover your signal back. So this cyclic prefix, that is not required at all, and that's why it is removed at the receiving end. So you only require these n samples. These n samples are required to recover your signal x of n back from what you have received. So in this way, remember your channel is also has a mu was the length of the channel. So this cyclic prefix, all of this would contain the interference from the previous channel, because if you're transmitting a signal x of n having a length of capital N into a channel with a length of mu, the total length of the convolution would be n plus mu, and hence these mu symbols would also have the interference from the previous symbols. And as you are removing all of this, so if once it is removed, if the cyclic prefix is removed, the inter-symbol interference is totally eliminated. And hence, this by the use of this cyclic prefix, you totally eliminate the inter-symbol interference. So that is one added advantage of the cyclic prefix. So one advantage was that it converts the linear convolution into a circular convolution, and an added advantage is that the inter-symbol interference is totally eliminated by the use of this cyclic prefix. So now if we want to look at the final block diagram of our transmission system, that would look like this. So you have this streams of data coming in at r bits per second. You would carry out this serial to parallel conversion. So this stream of data is coming in at r bits per second. So you would carry out serial to parallel conversion, so that you have these streams at r by n samples per second. So you would call it x sub 0, x sub 1, all the way to x sub capital N minus 1. So you would have these capital N symbols, right? And these would be transmitted on different subcarriers. So you would do what? Once you have these symbols, you would carry out the IFFT operation on these capital N samples. That would give you what? That would give you x of 0, x of 1, x of capital N minus 1, right? You would then add cyclic prefix, and you would also do parallel to serial conversion, right? You would add cyclic prefix, the last mu samples you would plug in and put it here, and then you would convert this parallel stream into a serial stream. The serial stream is a digital sample still, so you would convert from digital to analog, right? This must be now then up converted at the frequency f naught. So you would multiply with cos of 2 pi f naught t, and that would give you your symbol s of t. Right? So this is the entire block diagram for the OFDM transmission. Right? So you make use of this IFFT implementation because that is very similar to a multi-carrier modulated signal in the baseband, and then you up convert it towards the very end so that you have a multi-carrier modulated signal. Um, so of course, the cyclic prefix, we said that it's a very good thing. It allows you to convert the linear convolution into a circular convolution. It totally eliminates the intersymbol interference, but it has a disadvantage as well. So the disadvantage is that you are losing some resources. So these mu samples could have been used to transmit some new information. Rather, these are used to eliminate the intersymbol interference. So that is the cost. So if you want to have a drawback because there is no free lunch, every advantage comes with a disadvantage. So the drawback of the cyclic prefix is lower data rate. And of course, you would, because you are transmitting signal, so you would have power inefficiency as well. One way of countering at least the second drawback is that instead of replacing your symbols, the mu symbols, you transmit nothing in those symbols. So you have a guard interval rather than this cyclic prefix. But again, that has its own advantages and disadvantages. But you can partially eliminate one of the drawbacks by using the guard interval instead of the cyclic prefix. So now what happens at the receiving end? So you have transmitted this signal using this block diagram representation. A stream of r bits per second was converted first into parallel streams, capital N parallel streams. This IFFT was used to mimic the multi-carrier modulation in the baseband, and then you up converted this after adding the cyclic prefix and digital to analog conversion. So at the receiving end, you would receive the signal R of t. This R of t is received. You would first multiply this or down convert this by multiplying with the cosine carrier. So this would give you the multi-carrier modulated signal. You would pass it, of course, through a low-pass filter to reduce the noise, right? And then you would convert this from analog to digital domain, A to D conversion, and that gives you Y of n, right? So this Y of n still would have the cyclic prefix attached to it. So you would first thing you would do is you would remove that cyclic prefix, right? So you would remove the cyclic prefix, and then you would do serial to parallel conversion, right? So you would have now at the output of this, you would have y0, y1 all the way to yn minus 1. So you would have this capital N samples that were required to get your recover your signal back, and then now you would do the inverse operation here. So you carry out an IFFT operation at the transmitting end. Here you would carry out the FFT operation, right? So you would do the fast Fourier transform of these symbols. These symbols would give you what? This would give you y of 0, y of 1, all the way to y of capital N minus 1. So this is your symbol, right? So this is nothing but your signal x of k times h of k plus some noise, of course, right? And then you would carry out parallel to serial conversion again, and that you would have a there you would have a demodulator. So for example, if you have carried out QAM modulation, so you would have a demodulator here, so linear modulator, right? So this would be, for example, QAM demodulator, and that would give you your signal S of t, right? Plus, of course, you would noise. So this would have at a rate of r bits per second. So that is the inverse operation you carry out at the receiving end. So remember, you said that your y of n is nothing but x of n circularly convolved with h of n plus some noise, right? And then we said that we can equivalently write this as y of k is equals to h of k times x of k plus plus some noise, let me call it n of k, right? And you can think of this because equivalently at the very end, after doing all of these transformations, you get your signal back. So you get this y of k back here, and the simplistic of the models for the OFDM can be this, that you have this y of k back here, and this y of k is nothing but your x of k that was transmitted to start with, right? So this x of k is what? This is the x of k is your symbols, it's your QAM modulated symbols that you want to transmit. So these x of k times h of k, right? So this h of k, you can think of it as a channel gain for right? So this can be thought of as a channel gain, and plus some noise n of k. So equivalently, you can write your OFDM transmission in a very simple form, which is this h of k plus times x of k plus n of k, and this h of k is a channel gain for a particular. So this would be, you can think of as a h of fk. So that is the flat fading channel response for the kth subcarrier, right? So that is what it is. That is a flat fading, and because you have eliminated the intersymbol interference, you are in a flat fading regime rather than the frequency selective regime, and because you have divided your total bandwidth such that your that they experience no intersymbol interference, and no intersymbol interference means a flat fading channel. So after removing the cyclic prefix, you can think of this as a flat fading channel. Remember, in the analysis of this OFDM transmission, we thought we have taken the channel gain to be have mu samples. So this a channel with mu samples is an ISI channel, right? So remember, it has intersymbol interference because we thought that the length of the channel is mu samples. So if you have mu samples in the channel, that means you would have some interference, but that interference has been taken care of by adding the cyclic prefix, and the cyclic prefix totally eliminate the intersymbol interference in the OFDM transmission. So now let's look at the matrix representation, matrix form of the OFDM. So in the matrix form, you can write your y of n as x tilde of n convolved with h of n plus some noise vector, we call it v of n. And if you want to write this down in the matrix form, right? So in this matrix y n minus 1 all the way to y 0 would be your output matrix. That would be equals to this convolution operation can be written as in the with the help of the Toeplitz matrix. So you have to write the Toeplitz matrix for the channel. This Toeplitz matrix would have a length of n, which is the length of this, plus mu, which is the length of this. The total number of columns of this Toeplitz matrix would be n plus mu. So you would have this channel h0, h1, all the way to h mu, and then you would have zeros. How many zeros? Because the total number of columns must be n plus mu. So you have these mu. So you would have n zeros here, right? So these are capital N zeros here, right? And then the next row would be a shifted version of this. So you would right shift this. So you have h0, h1 all the way to h mu, and then you would have zeros here and a zero here, right? And this would continue, and the last row would be 0 all the way to 0, and then you would have h0 to h mu here. So this is the Toeplitz representation. So this dimension of this matrix is n plus mu is the number of columns, and n is the number of rows. So you can increase the number of rows, and you can still receive those cyclic prefix symbols, but you don't need them. So essentially, you need these capital N samples to recover your signal back. And for this, for each one of these, you need a product that is n plus mu times n plus mu. That would be a product of these. There would be n plus mu products, and then you would add them together, right? So there would be n plus mu products and add them together to get one sample out of it. That's how convolution works. So that would get multiplied with your x tilde. So that would be equals to x n minus 1 all the way to x0, and then x minus 1 all the way to x minus mu. So you would have this x vector would have a length of n plus mu, right? So this would be n plus mu cross 1, and plus of course you would have these noise vector that would have a dimension of n cross 1, v n minus 1 all the way to v0, right? Because that is what you require at the output, right? So this is your Toeplitz representation of the OFDM symbols, right? So you can see that you have this because of this cyclic prefix. So this is a linear convolution. Rather, this is not we are not talking about about the circular convolution here. This is the linear convolution of x tilde of n times with the h of n, and then you add this matrix v of n. But now, because you don't, and you can see we have removed already the cyclic prefix here. So you have only n samples here, right? But now, because of the cyclic prefix, you can convert this matrix representation or this channel matrix into a circulant matrix. So you don't need this n cross n plus mu matrix. You would convert this into a square matrix. So this n cross n plus mu matrix. So this was AH. So now you would convert this this Toeplitz matrix into a circulant matrix. So you would convert this into a matrix that has a dimension of n cross n circulant matrix. Right? And then if you want to write that, because of the cyclic prefix, we know that all of these samples are nothing but these samples, right? So this equivalent representation using the circulant matrix, using a circulant matrix would be the following. So we would convert this into, you would have output would still be capital N samples that is you require. So you require yn minus 1 to y naught. And now you would have this circulant matrix. So it would start with h0 all the way to h mu. But now instead of putting n zeros ahead, we would put only n minus 1, n minus mu zeros here. So you have an n cross n matrix here. So now this would be 0 times h naught, h mu, and then you would have zeros here, right? And then after a while, these would start repeating, right? So this, once you have this, once you have this rows where you have this uh, n minus mu zeros here, and all the channel has been written here. Now in the next row, this h mu would come here. So you would have h mu, then all the zeros, h naught and h mu minus 1, and this would continue, and finally you would have the last row would be h1, h2 all the way to h mu, and then you would have zeros here, and this would be h naught. So this is the circulant matrix, and now the x vector would only have a dimension of n cross 1. So we would have x n minus 1 all the way to x naught here, plus of course the noise vector v n minus 1 v naught. Now this matrix H is a circulant matrix. And you can see why it is called a circulant matrix, because the rows of the circulant matrix are circularly shifted version of the previous rows, and hence you get these circularly shifted versions all the way to, so it is a squared matrix, right? And you can think about it, and you can see that because of the cyclic prefix, because of the fact that these mu samples are the same as the first mu samples of this x, this would work. Otherwise it won't have worked, right? These mu samples here are the same as these first mu samples, and that is why this circulant matrix representation can work here. Otherwise it won't have worked, right? So you have this y vector is h times x plus v, where h is a circulant matrix. Now we would look at the properties of the circulant matrix, and that would ease out our analysis a little. So let's look at some properties of circulant matrix. So circulant, one of the properties of the circulant matrix is that the eigenvectors, the normalized eigenvectors of the circular matrix, have a very specialized form, I should say. So let Vk be the vectors of H. So Vk are the eigenvectors of H. This Vk have this form. This Vk is a vector would be of this form. So 1 over root n, so that you normalize it to unit norm, it would be 1 and then you would have wn to the power k, then you would have wn to the power 2k, and all the way to wn to the power n minus 1 times k transpose. So it's a column vector, right, with these elements. Now, what is this Wn? So this Wn is nothing but the nth root of unity. If you know this from your DSP course, so this Wn or signals and systems course. So we talk about the nth root of unity. That means it is something. So Wn would be something. If you take the nth power of that you would get a unity. It is nothing but e to the power. So it would have a unit norm and it would have different phases. So it would be e to the power 2 pi by n j times 2 pi by n, right? And now you can see that if you take the nth power of this expression, so you would get e to the power j 2 pi, and that would be equals to cos of 2 pi, and that would be equals to 1. So you can see that this is nothing but the nth root of unity, right? Which means that if x to the power n is equals to 1, then this means x can be equals to e to the power j 2 pi by n times k, where k can be equals to 0 to n minus 1, where j of course is root of minus 1, is your iota for the complex numbers, right? So this j is equals to root of minus 1. So circulant matrix. So this circulant matrix have this specialized form of eigenvectors, right? And because of these special kind of eigenvectors, we can and that means we can decompose this H matrix using eigenvalue decomposition, where the columns of those decomposed matrix would be eigenvectors like these. And as a result, you would have these exponential powers being represented in the matrix form. And you can probably guess that these matrix should work as the Fourier matrix per se, because e to the power j 2 pi by n uh, times k, and you multiply that and then sum them together, that allows you to compute what is the Fourier transform of the or the discrete Fourier transform of a signal x of n. So that is where we are going, because this is nothing but the Fourier, this OFDM symbol is nothing but an IFFT and IFT implementation. So we would make use of these eigenvectors there, right? So now let's carry out the eigenvalue decomposition of H. So this H matrix, which is a circular matrix, can be uh, can be can be decomposed using eigenvalue decomposition into M delta and M Hermitian, where this delta would be a diagonal matrix and this M and M Hermitian would be unitary matrices having these eigenvectors placed stacked in them. Right? So in other words, if you want to find out what is M, so M would have these eigenvectors placed in it. So M matrix would be 1 over root n, so that norm of all the vectors is 1. It would have 1, 1, all the way to 1. The first row would also be 1. And then you would have Wn here, Wn to the power 2 here, Wn to the power n minus 1 here, and then you would have Wn to the power n minus 1 here, and you would have Wn to the power 2 times n minus 1 here, and Wn to the power n minus 1 times n minus 1 here. So this is your M matrix, right? So M matrix, where Wn is nothing but e to the power j 2 pi by n. So here it would be e to the power j 2 pi by n. It is here it is e to the power j n minus 1 j 2 pi times n minus 1 over n, right? And similarly, you would have this, for example, would be e to the power j 2 pi by n 2 pi by n times n minus 1 um, times n minus 1 times n minus 1. So this is your M matrix, and you can clearly see that this is related to a Fourier matrix. So you have these exponentials, complex exponentials running around here, and that allows you to compute what is called the discrete Fourier transform. So let me write that precisely. So if you want to compute discrete Fourier transform of a vector x, then DFT or discrete Fourier transform of the vector x, which is called x of k, would be nothing but a matrix Q times this vector x, where this Q matrix is related to this M. So Q matrix is nothing but M Hermitian, because in the Fourier transform you have a minus sign with the complex exponential. So you need to take the complex conjugate of all of these, and if you take the complex conjugate of e to the power j 2 pi by n, that would be equal to e to the power minus j 2 pi by n. So this Q matrix would allow you to take the discrete Fourier transform, right, of so this Q matrix would have this complex conjugate of W here. So you would have one, and then you would have Wn conjugate here, right? Wn minus 1 times to the power n minus 1 conjugate here, right? All of the conjugates. Times n minus 1 conjugate. So that is your Q matrix, right? That contains the complex exponentials with a negative sign, so that you can compute the Fourier transform of the vector x. So let me write that precisely. So if Wn is e to the power j 2 pi by n, Wn conjugate would be equals to e to the power minus j 2 pi by n, right? And that allows you to compute the Fourier transform of the vector x. Also note that this Q matrix is also a unitary matrix. That means if you want to compute Q inverse, this is nothing but Q Hermitian. In other words, if you want to compute inverse Fourier transform of something, so inverse discrete Fourier transform of the vector x of k would be nothing but Q Hermitian times that vector x. That is important, right? So that is the inverse is also very easy to compute, because all you need to do is to take the Hermitian of that matrix, and that gives you the inverse of that matrix. So now with all of this, now we can write the matrix representation of the OFDM in a very simple and precise manner, right? So let's so we know that we started off with this model y is equals to h x plus n. So this h is a circulant matrix. So let me call it h tilde x, which is a circulant matrix version of this, right? And we call this a v vector. So we had this noise. So we started off with this. So this y of n is equal to h times h x of n plus v. And where this x is a vector, so this is a circular matrix, this x is a vector, this v is a vector, this y is a vector, right? At the receiving end, right, that is what you receive, right? So this is what you receive. These are the time domain samples. So at the receiving end, you after doing this parallel to serial conversion, after removing the cyclic prefix, which is already removed here in this y vector, you do what? You compute the fast Fourier transform of this vector. So you do what? The first thing you do is you compute y. So your y of n is nothing but fast Fourier transform or discrete Fourier transform of the vector y, and that would be equals to q times y vector, and that would be equals to q times this h tilde x plus q times v, right? And remember, this H matrix can be decomposed into M delta M Hermitian times X matrix plus V Q times V, let me call it V tilde. Q is a unitary matrix, so multiplying with a unitary matrix would not change the variance of the noise, so it would still be circularly symmetric noise with the same variance, so that does not change a lot, right? And we also know that Q and M are related, are a inverse transform pair. So this would be nothing but, so this M, Q is nothing but M Hermitian, right? So since this Q is equals to M Hermitian, right? So that's what we started off with. We started off with the M matrix and I said that this Q would be the Hermitian of that. So your Y of N, of K rather, would be equals to M Hermitian times M times delta times M Hermitian times X, which is you can think of X as a, because this is the time domain version, so you can think of this as a inverse Fourier transform of the capital X. So you can think of it capital M times X plus V, where capital M would be equals to Q Hermitian. So this capital M is equals to Q Hermitian, and Q Hermitian times capital X gives you nothing but your inverse discrete Fourier transform. So this operation is the inverse discrete Fourier transform of this capital X that gives you the small x, right? So hence you can write this y of k as, this is an identity matrix. This is an identity matrix. You can write it as delta times x plus v. In other words, you have diagonalized your matrix. Diagonalize this matrix and you have decomposed using the eigenvalue decomposition. You have so this is a diagonal matrix. Delta is a diagonal matrix and it contains the eigenvalues lambda 1 all the way to lambda n, right? And you typically put it in a descending order. That means lambda 1 would be the highest and lambda n would be the lowest eigenvalue of the matrix, circulant matrix H. So that is the matrix representation, right? And you can see that at the very end you have a very easy representation here. That is, your y of x is delta times capital X plus v, uh, plus v, which is a diagonalized version. That means you don't have any interference coming from the previous symbols or whatever. You have just you transmit something. So y1 would be lambda 1 times x1 plus v. Your y2 would be lambda 2 times x2 plus v2, and so on. So that means that ISI channel has been converted into into a diagonal channel, right? So ISI channel has been diagonalized. And And the important thing for the OFDM is that in this diagonalization, you don't need the channel side information here because whatever you receive, you all you need to do is you have to do the inverse Fourier transform matrix, and these matrices, Q matrix, M matrices, these are well-known matrices, so you don't need to compute these matrices from the channel matrix. That is the beauty of this, that you don't need channel side without CSI knowledge. So without CSI knowledge, you have totally eliminated the inter-cell interference here. So that is the beauty of OFDM. Thank you.